Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's call with L&I Secretary Jerry Oleksiak and UC Benefits Policy Director Susan Dickinson. I'm Teresa Elliott, Deputy Communications Director for L&I. Please submit your questions by clicking the chat icon located in the lower right-hand side of your screen. Please include your name and media outlet followed by your question. In the interest of time, you'll be limited to one question, but time permitting, we'll open up the call for a second round. You may submit any follow-up questions to us at dlipress@pa.gov, and we'll address them after the call. For your awareness, this call is being recorded. If you do not consent to being recorded, please hang up now. Following the call, a link to the recording will be provided to the media outlets that participated today. We'll get started now with comments from Secretary Jerry Oleksiak. Secretary?
Thank you, Teresa, and good afternoon, everyone. I did a little research on my own this morning and realized that we've done over 30 of these calls. I think 33 was the number that I found. So I appreciate your involvement with this. We've been doing this since shortly after the mitigation efforts went into effect, and I hope you find them valuable. Let me start with our numbers. Since March 15th, we've paid more than $29.8 billion in benefits, $5.7 billion from our regular UC, and the remainder, $24 billion from the CARES Act program.
All commercials are over and the news comes back.
That's our pandemic unemployment assistance, the pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, the federal pandemic unemployment compensation, and our own extended benefits and the Lost Wages Assistance Act. Since March 15th, we've also increased our UC Service Center staff by over 160%, going from 775 employees to 2,022 as of today. And those employees have worked about over 370,000 total overtime hours since March 15th. 97% of eligible claimants who filed for regular unemployment compensation between March 15th and September 19th were either paid or were deemed not eligible. And the remaining 3% are pending resolution for a variety of reasons that we've outlined previously. Since March 15th, we've also helped over 3 million claimants through email, over 1.3 million emails, about 658,000 phone calls, about 172,000 live chats, and about 891,000 calls through our virtual assistant. As you know, it's our goal from the very beginning of this to get people the benefits they deserve as quickly and as effectively as we possibly can. And the advances we've made in staffing, in technology have helped, and we will continue to find every avenue we can to do that. The Lost Wages Assistance Program, let me remind everyone who may be eligible to apply. If you haven't applied already, that's the extra $300 per week that goes for the week August 1st through September 5th. Please go to uc.pa.gov/cert if you believe you are eligible for those dollars. An update on the trust fund. As of Friday, October 23rd, the balance was approximately $35 million. And that's based on official figures we get from the United States Treasury. And so far, again, as of October 23rd, we've borrowed $523.1 million in zero interest loans. We've made a request to the federal government for 3 additional months of loans. So we've requested to borrow up to $300 million in November and up to $700 million each in December and January. And again, this is like a line of credit, so we may not borrow that much depending on circumstances, but we do have access to those funds. We are continuing our virtual town halls. We'll be doing another one this Thursday at 1 o'clock, and we encourage folks to go to access.live/PA-labor to join those town halls. Let me give you an update on the PUA fraud, which has been an ongoing battle that we have been confronting. This is related to the PUA program, which, as you know, assists self-employed independent contractors, gig workers, and others who are out of work due to COVID-19 and are not traditionally eligible for regular UC. Many states, as we have stressed, including Pennsylvania, have experienced issues with scammers who are filing fraudulent claims for these PUA benefits. They've used stolen identities and information obtained through prior data breaches that occurred outside of government. Nothing in L&I was breached. A few weeks ago, after seeing a sudden surge in suspicious PUA claims, L&I contracted with a federally certified identity verification provider, an identity verification provider, ID.me. Many PUA claimants have already received directions in their dashboards on how to complete identity verification from ID.me. And we continue people to check to urge people to check the dashboards to see when they'll be next in the queue. We're also aware that some links to ID.me are being shared, and while we know obviously the claimants are very eager to get their identities verified so they can begin receiving their payments, we strongly caution against using any of those links that you are provided. External links can easily be spoofed or faked by scammers posing as ID.me or L&I. It can be difficult to wait, but the safest option is to do that, to wait for the official notification through your PUA dashboard, which is safe and secure. We're also working with ID.me to steadily increase the number of verifications made daily so we can quickly get every claimant who is waiting through this process. We've also seen recently an uptick on another fraud scheme, particularly in several other states, and we are on the lookout for it here. These states have reported seeing fraudsters access user accounts and then change bank account information to divert benefit payments. So it's important for claimants, obviously, to remember that you should never give your username or password to anyone. We will not call you at L&I and ask for your username and or password, and you should not provide it to anyone through social media. The fraudsters are obviously very slick, very deceptive. They can be very charming. They will appear sympathetic and caring. They'll offer to help a claimant sign up for a program that doesn't exist. They'll say that they can unblock your account or fix a problem that they don't have access to fixing. So be very careful. Again, L&I staff will never ask you for your username or your password. Please don't give it to anyone. And make sure you choose a password that's difficult. You want to make sure, again, that you protect your identity as much as possible. We encourage everyone, as we always do, to go to uc.pa.gov/fraud to look for a list of warning signs that you've been scammed, details on how to report that fraud, and instructions for individuals on returning any fraudulent benefits that you may have received. With that, Susan and I will be happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that information, Secretary Oleksiak. We're now moving into the Q&A portion of today's call, so I invite any reporters on the line today that have questions. Please submit them at this time. You can submit your questions using the chat icon in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And just a reminder, please include your name as well as your media outlet. Our first question for today is from Lauren Rosenblatt from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Do you have any comments ahead of the regional jobs report that is coming soon? Have you seen unemployment rates declining?
I don't have any comments on the report yet to be released, but I can tell you that we did release the unemployment rate for September, and it was down 2.3 percentage points in Pennsylvania to 8.1%. So that was a significant decrease. The national rate also fell by half a percentage point, 0.5, from an August level to it's now 7.9% nationally. So we've seen it's been steadily declining. The Commonwealth's unemployment rate increased by 3.5 percentage points from a year ago, while the national rate was up 4.4 points over the previous year. but it has been declining, and we're happy to see that. And when the regional reports are available, we'll certainly make them available to everyone.
Next, Bucks County Courier-Times Joe Chevalier asks, how many of the 117,000 claimants impacted by the PUA freeze, how many of those payments have been cleared and released?
Well, I can begin, and then Susan, if you want to jump in. We're still only 2 weeks into this. We're still collecting data. We do know that of the folks that have been asked to verify their identity, most of them have not, and only about 10%, give or take, and Susan, you may know exactly, have actually had their identity verified, because the majority of people just are not taking advantage of the service. So that you can draw your own conclusions from that. We're a little hesitant to draw any conclusions at this point because the program is relatively new. But Susan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just add that of those 117,000, we were holding those while we got these extra fraud measures in place, while we got our ID.me process up and running, as well as some additional fraud measures that were in the PUA system itself. So once we had that up and running, I think it was the end of September 29th or 30th, those group of 117,000, those were the first ones that we put through to get cleared. So those that could be cleared were cleared. Of course, we expect, the whole reason we put on the hold was because of the spike in claims and us knowing that they must be fraudulent claims, because there would be no spike of real people suddenly filing that many claims. So once we put them through the measures, we don't expect that fraudsters will actually attempt ID.me verification. Some of them might, they might fail. But for the most part, we probably just won't see any action on the rest of those claims at all. They're just going to sit out there because the fraudster's not going to, try to do the verification. They don't have the right information. They won't be able to get past it. So those 117,000 have been handled as much as they can be handled. And at this point, it's up to the claimants to take action on the claim to get their identity cleared. Or, if it's a fraudster, then they probably won't take any action at all.
Follow up to the previous question. So we're saying that 10% of the 117,000 have been verified?
The 10% actually reaches further than that. So the 117,000 was what we put through initially, but we're putting through other claims as well. And we have for weeks to come, we'll be putting through some backlog claims of identities that haven't been verified yet. So far, it's of the ones we've submitted, which, remember, we can't submit all the ones that we have to ID.me at once. We have to do it on a schedule that they give us. So of the ones that submitted, it's been 10% that have actually gone through and verified their identifications and had their holds removed on their claims.
Thank you, Susan. Next, we have Nicole Brambila from Public Source, and she wants to know, how many have been submitted or will be for verification? Do we have a response for that, Susan?
I don't have the stats with me. I know it's ID.me kind of sets what we can submit. We don't really get to decide. So they, because of course they have staffing, they have to staff their company appropriately. Remember, they're serving all the states, especially California is a very large state. So all the states that have signed up with them, they need to make sure that they don't get overwhelmed, because they do have that service, which we like about ID.me, where it's a trusted referee and the person can be face-to-face with someone on video and verify their identification that way. So they have to make sure that they're properly staffed and they can handle the volume. So we have to, week to week, ID.me tells us what we can submit. And so far, we're just seeing that about 10% of what we do submit are what gets verified. It'll probably fluctuate over time. That's what ID.me told us in their experience. But so far, that's what we're seeing. It is very early because we've only been doing this for 2 weeks now.
Again, I'd like to encourage any of our reporters that have additional questions for us today to please submit them at this time. We still have a few minutes left, so please submit any follow-up questions via the chat icon. We have another follow-up from Bucks County Courier-Times. What is Pennsylvania's daily volume for ID.me? And is it 10% of that daily volume?
There isn't actually a daily volume. When I said ID.me sets a schedule, it really is, and it's not necessarily the same every week. So they may say, like, on Tuesday you can submit 25,000, on Thursday you can submit 10,000. So it varies. There's no like daily amount that we can send.
Okay, we're going to pause for a moment and see if we have any additional questions. And if not, Secretary Oleksiak and Susan, we will be able to peel out of here a few minutes early today. Again, if anyone has any additional questions, please submit them at this time. If there are any questions that we cannot answer during today's call, you can send them to us at our resource account at dlipress@pa.gov. Okay, Tristan White from Fox 43. What was the original date of the notice spike, and when were the ID.me measures put into place?
The spike that brought this all on was on September 17th. And we finally put ID.me into place right around the end of the month. I can't remember exactly if it was the 30th or the 1st of October. So it was about a 2-week time frame where we were holding all new claims until we could put them through and get them verified. So once we were able to get that up and running, we just took the previous 2 weeks of brand new claims and just put them all through the filters.
Another follow-up from the Bucks County Courier-Times. How much money has Pennsylvania borrowed so far from the UC Trust Fund?
As of Friday, the last date we have figures for, we've borrowed $523.1 million in zero interest loans, and we have been approved for more funds that we may need for November and through, I think, through December. And again, it's similar to a line of credit, so what we're approved for, we may not need to borrow, but thus far it's $523.1 million.
Okay, and that is all the time we have for today. Please email our communications office at dlipress@pa.gov with additional questions.